know I have some mystery fans out there, and boy, are you in for a treat. 2 new books, Death Cloud and Rebel Fire, star Sherlock Holmes as a 14-year-old detective. In Death Cloud, Sherlock finds a dead body and realizes that it's been a murder. What is he going to do? Can he use his detective skills to figure out what caused and who's behind this murder? In Rebel Fire, we learn that the notorious assassin John Wilkes Booth is alive and well in England. Can young Sherlock Holmes bring him to justice? Well, if you like a great mystery, a page-turner that you cannot put down, check out Death Cloud and Rebel Fire.
Students, a great new time travel adventure book at your spring book fair is called The Last Musketeer by Stuart Gibbs. In this book, Greg Rich isn't rich anymore. His parents have had to sell their beautiful home and many of its antique furnishings and paintings and jewelry to a famous art museum in Paris. When Greg and his parents arrive at the museum to turn over these items, the man in charge of the museum decides that he also wants a beautiful black necklace that Greg's mom is wearing. She says, "I wanted to keep that one piece of jewelry." But the man snatches it from her throat. And when he does, he, Greg, and his parents fall through a painting of a king's throne room at the museum. Greg finds himself back in Paris in the time of Louis XIII. He and his parents are accused of trying to assassinate the young king. His parents are led away, but Greg escapes. He comes upon some young guys who are going to help him, and he discovers that they are young musketeers, Artemis, Porthos, and Athos, and that they believe he is D'Artagnan. Can these young musketeers free Greg's parents and solve the mystery as the last musketeer? Check it out at your spring book fair.
Cyrus and Antigone Smith live in a motel, but not a fancy motel. They live in a dump, a run-down motel with the walls sagging and water dripping through the ceiling. They live there with their older brother Dan because their dad died and their mom was in an accident that left her in a comatose state in the hospital. One day, this old man comes to the motel and wants a room, and not just any room. He wants Cyrus's room. 111. This man is covered in tattoos. From his head to his toe, his entire skeleton is outlined with tattoos all over his skin. Well, the next morning, this man is dead, the motel is burned to the ground, and their brother Dan is nowhere to be found. In Cyrus's pocket are a set of keys that hold the power and mystery that he and Antigone could never fathom. Find out what it is in The Dragon's Tooth.
8 Keys is a touching new story at your book fair. Elise, who lives with her aunt and uncle, has just turned 12 and she started middle school. But nothing is going right for Elise. Her best friend Franklin seems babyish. She is being tortured by her locker mate who is bullying her. She can't seem to stay on top of her homework. Everything seems to be going wrong for Elise. Suddenly, a mysterious key with her name shows up on it. Could it be a key to one of the 8 rooms that's above the barn outside her house in her uncle's woodworking shop? Could one of these keys unlock the mystery to her past? Well, if you like a touching story, a great new book to read at your book fair, check out 8 Keys. Students, teachers, lovers of nonfiction, Cardinal Lane has a great new series at its spring book fairs. If you've enjoyed the Who Was books, you're sure to fall head over heels in love with the What Was titles. The first, What Was the Battle of Gettysburg, includes photographs from the Civil War and tells a lot about the movements of the Confederate and Union soldiers.
How did each general decide where to put his troops in what was one of the bloodiest battles in American history? In What Was the Gold Rush, we learn about the discovery of gold in California in 1848. Before you know it, over 300,000 people had headed west. They were called 49ers to see if they could find gold and strike it rich. You know, we even had gold that was discovered in North Carolina. Wow, this is a great book at your spring book fair. Check out What Was a Wonderful New Series.
In the book Stranded, Vanessa and Buzz live with their dad, and Carter and Jane live with their mom. Well, Carter and Jane's mom meets Vanessa and Buzz's dad, and they fall in love, and they get married. At first, the kids just fight, so their parents decide to send them on a sailing trip with their Uncle Dexter. While on the sailing trip, a storm comes up and sinks the ship. Vanessa, Buzz, Carter, and Jane are separated from Uncle Dexter, and they have to learn how to survive on their own, stranded on an island together. Find out how they do it in Stranded.
The Royal Prince is an awesome book. It's not your typical royal and they lived happily ever after. Here's the deal. In a faraway land, discontent and civil war were brewing. The king and queen and their eldest son had been murdered, but that is a secret. A second son was lost at sea 4 years ago, but his body was never found. Connor, a nobleman of the court, has devised a plan to find an orphan to impersonate the long-lost prince, thereby gaining power. Connor kidnaps 4 orphan boys and forces them to compete for the honor of impersonating the lost prince. And if you're one of the 3 boys not selected, well, let's just say, lie or die. Well, if you like a mystery, a book full of suspense and intrigue, you will devour this book from the very beginning to the end, The False Prince, at your book fair.
The book, Jefferson's Sons, A Founding Father's Secret Children, is a historical fiction book about our 3rd president, Thomas Jefferson, and children that he had with the slave woman, Sally Hemings. The story tells us about young Beverly, yes, that's a boy, and his 2 brothers and sister who know that Thomas Jefferson is their papa, but aren't allowed to call him that at Monticello. Maybe you've visited Monticello and seen Mulberry Row, the slave quarters where Beverly and his brothers and sister live. They want so much to have a papa that they can love, but Thomas Jefferson doesn't seem to pay much attention to them. If you want a great story about an incredible president and some things that many of us may not know, check out Jefferson's Sons.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
General Lee.
General Lee who?
Generally, I don't tell very many jokes. But I've started since I read Just Joking 2, a book from National Geographic's Kids. This book is filled with 300 jokes, tongue twisters, riddles, and a lot more. Check it out at your book fair.
Penelope Crumb is a sassy young lady. She's a lot like Junie B. Jones because she has an attitude. And then she's also a lot like Frankly Franny because she's so smart. If you like Clementine, because Clementine is witty and funny, then Penelope Crumb is so funny, she's a lot like Clementine in that respect. So check out Penelope Crumb if you like any of these other series, because you're bound to enjoy all the hilarious antics of Penelope Crumb.
Boys and girls, do you love a great book with puzzles to solve and mysteries to uncover? If so, you'll love the book Walls Within Walls. In this book, the Smithfork children, CJ, Bridget, and Patrick, along with their little sister and parents, moved to a new apartment in New York right across from Central Park. The apartment has been remodeled. That means it's been changed since the original owner, a man named Mr. Post, died years ago. He was very rich and left a large fortune that no one has found. One day, when CJ is messing around in his room, he knocks into some metal grilling where the heat comes through and finds that behind the apartment walls there is a large painting of an eye that has words written on it. When he explores behind the wall, he discovers a library book of poetry that was due back at the library in 1937. Somebody's going to have a lot of fines to pay. Well, CJ and his brother and sister discover that the poems have clues, and if they follow the clues and go throughout the city, they may be able to discover this incredible fortune. Great mystery book with lots of puzzles. Check out Walls Within Walls.
Gabe is 10 years old, and Gabe is really smart. He's so smart that he just got accepted to a prestigious summer camp called the Summer Center for Gifted Enrichment. He's going to go and learn lots of really cool things with lots of other kids like him. But Gabe has a soon-to-be stepbrother, Zach, who is really cool. And Gabe wants to look cool in Zach's eyes. Can he be cool and be a geek at the same time? And can he and Zach get along? Find out in Nerd Camp.
Sophie Simon is in the 3rd grade, and she is one smart cookie. She loves studying advanced calculus, she likes to read about the history of the world, and she has even performed open heart surgery on an earthworm. But Sophie's parents want her to be a well-adjusted child that likes to go to pool parties and go shopping at the mall and have spend-the-night friends over, things that Sophie doesn't care too much about. When some of Sophie's friends start running into their own parent problems, the question is, can Sophie's incredible IQ solve her friends' problems and maybe in the process gain her some friends? Well, if you like a great read aloud that's very funny, check out Sophie Simon Solves Them All.
Secrets at Sea is a delightful new book by favorite author Richard Peck. In this book, a family, the Cranstons, are going to sail across the Atlantic Ocean all the way from America to England because they've got to find a husband for their rather plain daughter, Olive. They don't know it, but a family of mice, 3 sisters and a brother, happen to live in their home. When the mice find out that the Cranstons will be leaving, they know they have to go along. They can't stay in a house that won't have any crumbs to eat. The mice sneak into the family's trunks and get on board the big steamer ship headed for England. They're very worried, though, because mice are deathly afraid of water. In fact, these mice's parents and older sisters drowned in a rain barrel. They get aboard the ship and are surprised to find that lots of other families have mice families as well. This is a great book about the antics that occur when the mice are at sea. Check it out at your spring book fair.
Tuesdays at the Castle is a great new book at your book fair. It got its name from the fact that every Tuesday, Castle Glower magically recreates itself. Some rooms get bigger, some rooms get smaller, new secret passageways are formed. Princess Celie, who is 11, likes to map those out, and it's a good thing she did. When the castle was ambushed and her mother and dad, who happen to be the king and the queen, and her older brother go missing and presumed dead, it's up to Celie to see if she can protect the castle and save the kingdom. If you like a great magical adventure, you will devour Tuesdays at the Castle.
How many of you love the I Survive series? I know I do. And I'm so excited that the newest one, I Survived the Battle of Gettysburg, 1863, is at your spring book fair. In this book, we meet a young boy named Henry. Henry is a slave and he has escaped from the plantation. When he meets some Union soldiers, they promise to watch after Henry. But he doesn't realize that in just a short time, he's going to be at one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. Can Henry survive the Battle of Gettysburg? Check out this great new I Survive title at your Cardinal Lane Book Fair. It's spring 2013,
And Cardinal Lane Book Fairs is
Buzzing with books.